Just so you know, you need to sign it above the door if you haven't already. First item on our agenda is consider for approval the agenda as submitted.
Make the motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Second item on our agenda is consider for approval the minutes of the October 9th. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Third item on our agenda is to consider for request special exception to allow a recycling center private within the LM Light Manufacturing Zoning District for the property located at 20 CC Camp Road. Mr. Philson, or Mr. Ward, would you like to present for the city clerk?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Here's a general location of the property under the property. We have an aerial view. Interest group submitted a request for a special exception to allow a recycling center private within the LM Light Manufacturing Zoning District for property located at 20 CC Camp Road. Subject property is identified as parcel 33.01 on tax map 54D, Group A, and contains approximately 3.46 acres. The property is zoned LM Light Manufacturing, as are adjacent properties to the east and south. The property is bordered by CL Local Commercial to the north and west. The petitioner is requesting the BZA approval of a special exception to allow a private recycling center to operate within the LM zoning district. The current operation located adjacent to the subject property to the east at 1368 West Broad Street has seen the need to expand into a larger facility to help bring materials in and out. The County Commission held a public hearing in September 2025 concerning the Jackson Law application submitted by Novastus to allow for the facility to expand in the proposed building. This application was withdrawn at the October 2025 meeting to allow the petitioner to obtain zoning compliance from the local municipality as required for the Jackson Law application. This current location that's been under operation at 1368 West Broad Street was approved as a research and development operation within the LM district in 2022. The facility also received TDEC approval for that operation. The facility receives domestic materials and recycles and processes the material into a fuel product. The COO of the company has noted with planning staff that the facility currently receives around 16 tons of material, and the material is processed as it is received. The petitioner states the facility will continue the same operation, but at a larger scale, and requires a larger facility for the operation. Planning Division did have questions regarding the expansion and whether a significant increase in the operation could create issues for adjacent properties. The COO has stated the expansion would allow for approximately 100 tons of material to be processed daily. At this point, the Planning Division is unaware of any complaints or concerns regarding the current location and operations of the facility that have been reported to the city. As noted on the chart of permitted uses, a recycling center private is a use permitted as a special exception by the Board of Zoning Appeals within the LM district. Section 228.3E of the zoning code details the conditions that must be met to allow a recycling center. These are, it shall not be located adjacent to any district zoned in the RS single-family residential classification. All materials shall be located inside a completely enclosed structure. Materials for recycling shall be limited to domestic or household recyclable materials. The facility is currently operating on the adjacent property to the east at 1368 West Broad Street. That facility is requesting the special exception to expand the operations into the larger facility. The proposed location is not adjacent to any RS single-family residential districts. The other requirement is based on the operation of the facility that all materials would be required to remain inside the enclosed structure, and the materials must be domestic or household recyclable materials. The Planning Division notes potential for additional impacts associated with the proposed increase in waste processing volume compared to the current facility. However, if all specified conditions are met, approval of the use is appropriate. Here is a building layout. You can see on the right of the screen, that's the existing facility, the smaller facility that they're currently operating out of at 1368 West Broad. This was the site plan that was submitted when the facility on CC Camp Road was submitted to the city for review. The zoning code defines a recycling center as an indoor facility for the collection of domestic or household paper, glass, metal, or other materials for the purpose of temporarily storing recyclable materials as defined in this code. Any byproducts resulting directly from manufacturer assembly processes are outside the scope of the definition. Recyclable materials were defined through Ordinance 014-0405 as aluminum cans, steel cans, glass, cardboard, paper, and plastics. The Planning Division has discussed whether this operation should be considered a recycling center or a processing facility with city staff. Through discussions with our chief building official, the facility does not exclusively conduct recycling activities and does include a processing component. This property is zoned LM, light manufacturing. In the LM district, section 228.2, permitted uses, establishments for the manufacture, processing, and assembly of goods and materials which by their nature do not create serious problems of compatibility with other land uses. Examples of such establishments include automotive parts and supplier manufacturers, remanufacturers, clothing manufacturers, metal fabricators, industrial laundries, furniture and wood products manufacturers, and plastic products manufacturers. So the facility processes domestic waste into a fuel product. Well, this is kind of a layout of what their facility looks like inside and the equipment used in the process. The facility sorts out recyclable materials such as plastic water bottles and ferrous and non-ferrous metals, which are collected and recycled and sold through the recycling process. The remaining material is dried and processed into a material to be bundled or ground and pressed into pellets. All operations occur within the completely enclosed structure. The chief building official has interpreted the processing component as meeting the standards of the LM District Section 228.2A. So here's some aerial views. This is CC camps on the left of the page. That's looking toward the north. No, excuse me, that is looking toward the east. That's Broad Street on the left side of the page. That's looking to the east. You can see in the background the smaller facility, and that's the newer facility behind the vehicle tow yard. That's looking to the south. Looking back to the southwest. That's looking to the west. The building in the foreground there is the current location. That's another drone shot of the current operation and the building they're proposing to use. That's looking back to the north. Our recommendation is approval of the special exception, subject to all conditions of the zoning code. That includes this all has to be completely contained within a structure as they currently been operating. If at any point that was not followed, they would not be in violation with the code. So that's our recommendation. I'm not happy to answer any questions from the board on this.
So, like I say, it's an existing operation.
Yeah, it was an existing operation that started in 2022. It was allowed as an R&D facility. It didn't come before this board at that time. They were processing that material as an R&D facility, and at the time, our building official determined it was compliant and issued the permit to move forward with the business there. And this is a proposal to expand. And when we received that proposal, our research in the zoning code, recycling is a component of this, and that is a special exception. So we thought that should come before the board for your review.
So otherwise, without the expansion, we wouldn't be hearing this, correct?
No, yes, that's correct. Just because they were expanding in a new facility.
Okay. And we're trying to decide whether it's recycling or processing.
No, I think what we're presenting you tonight is there is a recycling component to this, right? I mean, so, and recycling is allowed in the code as a use permitted upon appeal, so that has to go before the board. I think as far as the processing goes, our building official did tour the facility, and he was, his determination after, when he looked into it was compliant with the LM. This is zone manufacturing. This is a manufacturing district that this is located.
So just not to be redundant, but the recycling little component of the recycling bin is why it's coming for us for the special exception.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
This time I'd like to open up to the audience, and I'd like to recognize, well, before I do that, let me housekeep. If you would like to speak to us, we'd ask that you come to the podium, state your name, and we would hope that you respect the time limit if several people do need to speak on it or anything. So at this time, I'd like to recognize someone to speak for the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have brought this request forward for our tenant on behalf of Sparrow Ventures. When we began this process about 5 years ago, we had a lot of questions and concerns about this entity for which we were building a facility for. We began at that time to begin our own investigation about or research into what the use of that building would be for. Our lender at the time also was interested in that because we didn't want to be involved in a structure that would cause damage to our asset, to our property. We were able, through learning through the process about how the building would be used, to get comfortable with what was being proposed. And so nearly 5 years ago, time Ecmore moved into the building on Novasas, and they have operated in this facility at their current and full capacity for nearly 5 years, 4 years, excuse me. And in that time, there's been no, as staff mentioned, there have been no complaints. There are apartments directly to the east of here, which would be downwind of this facility in most days. No complaints have come from that area, and we don't want any complaints because we still have real estate interests to the south, to the north, across Broad, and also to the west. And so we're not looking to do anything that causes in any way any detriment to the neighborhood or to the properties around there. We would invite anyone who is interested in seeing this process and the technology that is being used and created right here in Cookeville that has gained a lot of attention from White House Task Force, from Oak Ridge National Lab, from Tennessee Tech. There have been a lot of really positive developments that have come through this clean process of taking refuge and turning it into something that's valuable, into a fuel, or that can be used for a multitude of purposes. And so, with that, we appreciate your consideration, your favorable consideration for this exception.
Anyone else like to speak for it? I'd like to recognize anybody that against it, or anyone else has a comment?
Can I speak against it? Can I get the picture of where it shows the area?
And can you please state your name for us?
My name is Tyler Brown.
Thank
So he was speaking just a second ago, he said there was apartments that's really close, and he was correct. This is the set of apartments that I own here, there's 15 units in a house right here, we have 15 people. He was saying there's no problem since day one, and that's not true. We have had a problem since day one. We have a problem with trash that comes out of the building and gets blown over, that collects on our property. We have a problem with the smell. You can smell the process within a several 100-foot radius from the building at most times of the day, if you have ever been here. Now behind my apartments here, there's another very large set of apartments that you can see. Everything that takes place here, all the water, all of the trash, it all comes this way. Here's a wetland here that's supposed to be protected. All this water here goes into Concrete Pond, into the lake, as you understand. So all your trash that's getting blown out of this building, it all comes into here and collects into that water that goes through. It comes over here on us, and the wind carries this way. So all the smell comes, and we get every bit of that. We've had that since day one. I don't know, there's a lot more problems that come. They're trying to ramp up the production of what they're doing, tons per month. Correct?
I understand, Greg.
This permit is excuse me, I'm not a real good speaker, but this permit is allowing them to process something like 100 tons a month. Right.
We're not deciding their volume, right? I mean, that's what they presented this request to the city to consider. And I think you're talking about something that the county would be involved in. As far as tonnage of trash, we wouldn't be, that wouldn't be under our purview. It's the expansion into that facility, and that's what they have stated to us. It is to expand and increase their capacity to up to 100 tons. And I assume that is per day.
Per day. So have you guys been to the current recycle center now? Like if you toured it, took a trip there? You have. So you physically walked through it with your feet, right? So when you walked out of it, the trash that you walk through, that collects on your shoes. That gets in your car. When the trucks come in and dump, that sludge gets on the truck. When the truck goes back out, the sludge comes back out. It comes on the road. If you look around, they have a fence around it. There's trash just littered on the fence everywhere. Anybody who owns an adjacent parcel to that facility, they have trash. They do not keep the trash out of the waterways. All that trash goes down into, Pigeon Roost Creek, right there, even though when they say it's all contained inside. You gotta understand that they have these huge doors that are open, and they bring these trucks in and dump the trash. But when the trucks come in, as they're coming in, trash is blowing off the trucks. Stuff's leaking out of the trucks, all the junk from the trash. So all that's getting on the road. Well, when they dump it, all that trash and junk blows out. So it's not really a contained system like they're claiming. The trash will affect everybody. The smell will affect everybody. They're also incinerating. Oh, sorry.
It's a time thing.
Oh, okay.
But we understand what you're saying, but like I say, it really doesn't fit. It needs to be addressed if you need it to be addressed, but it's not exactly what we're dealing with this.
Maybe I don't.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question just real quick, Mr. President? When you said recycling center, do you mean the one down on South Jefferson?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought that's where you were.
Yes.
Okay.
You work there one time, whatever.
I work for the city, so I had frequent visits to the recycle
Okay.
center. We help them out on various occasions. So I have lots of, knowledge of the recycle center, how it operates, how this center operates, the way the trash comes in and out, And then another thing is our land value. The more trash and the more problems they create here, for the people on this side who you have all the apartments and everything, it'll diminish our value something terrible. They were talking about wanting to keep the value up. Well, this is going to directly hurt everybody who has any sort of, things where people live, apartments, duplexes, anything like that. It's going to kill the value drastically.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to present or have a comment?
folks, when I ordered these signs, I thought they were getting to be like this size right here. A little bit bigger, so if you got any problem seeing, maybe you can see these. I'm sorry for the audience if you want to go and see what we're doing, but in your packet, you'll see these layouts. And basically what we did, we just took an aerial shot. It's not been modified, it's called Tennessee Property Viewer, but it shows some of the locale nearby. You've got, from the proposed building site, you've got residential at 461 feet. You got more residential there at 1460. You got elevation 2 at 1475. You got Mr. Brown's property that he was talking about over at 364 feet. I think the big thing's not been mentioned right here is you've got Sycamore Elementary here, half a mile away. Okay, when it comes from the south, that's where it's going, southwest. Cane Creek School, 3760. The big thing right here, everything flows down to Cane Creek Lake, Cane Creek Park. TTU, 1.4 miles away. Hospital, 1.6. A couple things I just pointed out. I know you've, in the last 30 days, they've opened new pickleball courts. Right here where the new pickleball courts are. Right behind them, they're digging the ground right now for the new splash pad. And I noticed this weekend they're still playing ball out there. I wonder how that's going to affect people who come to town and want to play ball, and everybody comes to Cane Creek Park. My particular interest, other than that, being a citizen here for over 60 years, is business is located right down the street, 2300 West Jackson. The folks here in the black shirts are part of the Next Step for Life, the discipleship program that my wife and I founded in 2014. Their house is right here, and in your package, you turn over to next to the last page, you can see the existing stack right there. I took this in the front yard, on the front porch, right in the front yard of 1491 West Broad, next door to the new apartments. And by the way, there's all this new subdivision back in here. I guess it would be to the north, and then there's a brand new subdivision being built right there next to the dollar store. Now, I wonder how all that's going to affect, but you can see right there, if you look at closer to your picture, you'll see the stack is eye level with our front porch at 1491 West Broad. To say it won't affect surrounding property is I believe, a misstatement. We've got the premier park in our city, and tens of thousands of people come visit that during the summer. I just don't think it's a good place for it. In addition, I observed the property as I pass back and forth over and over again, and I see very little, if any, activity there. And to make a statement that there's no outside storage, I've seen something under a tarp there for months and months and months. I don't know what it is, but in my opinion, I don't see passing by 8 tons a day of anything. I see a pickup truck, a dump trailer, and some kind of material stored under a tarp. Go back to this picture right here, and I will be quiet. This something has been addressed. If you go to another one, John, another overhead. Right in the back, no back one. Right here, go back. I'm sorry. Go back this way. One more time. There's, best I can tell, there is no stormwater retention right here. All this water comes off the hill. Water's blowing over here towards Tyler Brown's apartments. Goes right in this tile right here. Heads toward that wetland we're talking about, toward Cane Creek. Questions? I would make one more comment, if you'll let me. About, how long has it been? Ron back there, how long has that been since we went to that ball game, Ron? 20 years ago? 25 years. Our kids played ball together. We're allowed in Tennessee. I can't tell you what it was. I know what they said it was. But there was some noxious smell that was so bad at our hotel. It was in the rooms. We actually moved that night to Sweetwater. What is this going to do to Cane Creek? What is it going to do to West Cookeville? What is it going to do when we just cleaned up 2 junkyards and that's the only place that we've got to expand our city? What are we going to do? It's our opportunity. I don't want to see it wasted on one project. Questions? Thanks, fellas.
name is Connie Bellamy, and I don't really have a comment, I have a question of the company or planning individuals to have looked at the process. And that would be emissions. I mean, the people speaking have mentioned assets and properties, and it may be affecting their value. But because Sycamore School and the church I attend, Sycamore, is so nearby, the process itself for doing this, changing it from glass, plastic, whatever, to fuel, do they have data? And this may be wrong place for that too, but maybe you can direct us to ask. Data, statistical information showing the air quality in the plant. I remember years ago, a plant here in Cookeville, unless OSHA was there, turned all their fans off for their staff that was taking fumes out. I'm not saying anybody still would currently do that kind of thing, but it does make me, I'm concerned about emissions as well as trash that's actually blowing and all. And I know nothing about this company other than their bios, which tells us nothing. I don't know if you've read bios, and certainly we have to be objective, but it doesn't say where any of them live or where they're from. So I'd like to know, do they live here? And because of the emissions and all and the effects that it could result in our area, why wouldn't they, if it's a good business and there's no emissions problem? Is that a concern of this committee or is that elsewhere? I'm saying it because it's Cookeville.
I'm not aware of emissions impacts of this. The process is, there's no, it's an air drying process is my understanding. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, they regulate emissions in the state of Tennessee. The city of Cookeville doesn't. So I would assume if they permitted this operation that they're aware of that, of any type of emissions concerns that could be here. And somebody from the company may be able to answer those questions for the board. But better than I, because I'm certainly no expert on the process.
Well, I'm a healthcare worker and I do substitute relief in the school clinics. And with Sycamore being there and kids being young, growing up, ending that kind of thing, that's kind of why I was wondering about the emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address anyone?
My name's Kelly Morbus. Excuse me, I have a cold. I'm the co-founder of Navastas. I do live here in Cookeville, Tennessee. Moved here in 2018 with my wife from Southern California. And just for the emissions part of it, we use no heat or no pressure in our process. So we produce no volatile organic compounds in the process of that. So as far as emissions control, our emissions are developed for Southern California air quality standards. Living there in business I had, I realized that Southern California had probably the most stringent air quality management district in the country. This is an R&D facility, so we built this based on the most stringent air quality controls that we had. So on the emission side, that's what that is. We will be putting people to work, and I will tell you the first couple of employees I had, I got right from a halfway house coming out of jail. So any of your people that need a job and come to work, we will be employing about 20 new employees over there, and it's a good place to help restart because I'm a believer in that. So that's that.
Anyone else like to make a comment?
A comment that needs, I think think it'll be answered. I looked at the website, and you use a buzzword called nucleation. I don't even have a clue what that is, but something's coming out of that stack.
You can smell it.
And along with garbage being blown around, I mean, anybody's been to the recycling center understands what that smells and looks like. And there's already stuff outside. Talking to some people at the county, they've got, and I'm not speaking for the county, I'm just talking in general. The recycling center does 240 tons a day. That's a lot of garbage. And they have well, I'm not even gonna go into that, but 100 tons a day of garbage, with all this right around there. I asked another county official, I said, the first time it came up, I said, what's it gonna happen? He said, it's gonna stink.
Anyone else?
I would like to note to the board, we haven't received complaints that there is a trash issue. I will definitely make sure our guys are taking a look at that. I was not aware that they had a blowing
So
trash
who are we supposed to
issue out
complain
there.
to?
Our codes department for sure.
So
I mean,
call them and complain about the trash.
Oh, absolutely. If there's a blowing trash issue, I mean, that would be a violation of our municipal code, and
We've had a
we
trash
go out-
issue there ever since they started. So
My staff fix it up.
it's costed us thousands of dollars already.
And we also hadn't received complaints about an odor. I don't know, we just haven't I checked with our codes folks, and nobody's ever called to complain about those things, and we typically receive those. Well, that's what we're basing this analysis on, is just the operation that's happened that we are privy to. We just haven't had those comments to the city that I'm aware of. Nobody's, made me aware of any of those, and you would think codes would be one of the first to be aware of.
All of our tenants have made numerous comments to us over the last year. We didn't call codes because, I run a business and you just can't call on everything that comes in, but we've sure enough had a problem. That's not being construed by the way he spoke and by the way you're spoken. We sure have had a problem.
I think that's something for the board to consider when
Our doors are like less than 30 feet from the property, so you have families that when they open the door, right there, 30 feet from all of this, 30 feet, as close as I am to you guys right now. That's how close they are.
They're playing ball with
Multiple
their
families,
kids.
multiple families,
They're riding scooters.
Right there in just that little vicinity, you have over, I think there's 60 or 65 doors just right there. That's 65 families at least. If more than one family don't live in one unit, could be 100 families right there.
Hey, John, how long has this been zoned light manufacturing? This is nothing recent, is it?
The majority of the area has been zoned light manufacturing for some time. There was a rezoning action that occurred before the 1368 property was built, where there was a split zone parcel, and they asked the frontage on Broad was zoned local commercial, like the gas station is adjacent to it. There was a partial split zoning issue where half of where this LM zoning was extended along the whole track, and it was compliant with our plan. Our future land use plan designates those areas. This is an older manufacturing area on CC Camp Road that's been there for many years. Several buildings were lost during the tornado that were out there, if you guys remember, but this was there many, many years ago. So it's been a manufacturing zone for a while.
And I'm still kind of questioning, Mr. Ward, that this is an existing operation that is just wanting to expand. And the only reason that it's come before us as a special exception is due to that recycling comment in the process.
When we were approached about the expansion and when we researched the zoning code relative to that, the recycling center is explicitly listed in the chart as a use permitted upon appeal. So And I can't speak to the former building officials' analysis and their decision in approving the use at 1368. But we felt like, since if there is a component that is recycling, and that is a use permitted upon appeal, well, we didn't have the authority to approve it with this expansion. So that's why I needed to come to the board for consideration. But as far as the processing component, our building official on his research into this has determined that, it would be compliant with the LM zone.
Well, I drove around the building today, this afternoon, and I didn't see any of that. I didn't smell anything, and that's what I was looking for. And I didn't see anything trash blowing, so that's, I don't know if that's good housekeeping or what, but this afternoon before I came, I wanted to give a drive-by just to make sure I knew what was going on and where it was. I really didn't have to get a good feel where it was.
Can I ask a question? Would you want to live next door and raise your kids there?
If I had to, I would.
But would you want to? Because I have to sell 15 apartments to people when they move in to raise their families.
I understand that, but I don't think my want to as a place.
But you never know, you might have to live somewhere like
You're
that.
exactly right. You're exactly right.
I'll make a motion.
I just wondered how much activity's going on in there. Maybe they're not doing very much yet.
It's expansion.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I drove around. I didn't see much going on. So.
That's the current rate that they're recycling or manufacturing, if you will. Problems are only going to increase and rise with growth.
Okay, let's stand up a few minutes. If there's problems, like you said, right?
Absolutely.
And the building official.
You wanna sit up here?
I mean, have you had any complaints in your?
We've not had any complaints called into the code department at all. And trust me, we get complaints every day, multiple, for everything you can think of. And we've not had.
They complain too. I mean, if y'all wanna call the city, there's a tracker online that the city has, and I use it for the red lights. How many of us complain about the red lights? I use them a lot. And so they can't fix it if they don't know it's existing. So I would encourage anybody, if there's a problem, report the problem. And like I said, I do it for the traffic signals a lot, because I like for the traffic signals to work. It's a pain sometimes to get around town, although in Cookeville, we're spoiled compared to where I live in other places in bigger cities. So I would encourage y'all to use the tracker if there's a problem. And they will not only fix it, they will let you know if they fix it. So anyway, I'll make a motion that we will approve this according to what the city has given us, and that's what I got.
Can I ask a question real quick?
We're already into the process, I'm sorry.
You can come talk to us afterwards.
I will, we'll put it on the record.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Next item on our agenda is consider a request for a variance to the minimum lot width at setback line from 75 feet to 71.46 feet for 3 proposed lots located at 1701 on the Avenue. Or, please.
Sir, basically, Mr. Chairman, here's a general location of the variance request under consideration. Here is a site map of the existing parcel. We have an aerial view. Mr. Jeremiah Wheat submitted a request for a variance to the minimum lot width requirements at the building setback for 3 proposed lots at 1701 Womack Avenue. Our subject property is identified as parcel 20 on map 40F through G and contains approximately 0.72 acres. Property is zoned RS10, single-family residential, as are the properties to the north, west, south, and east. The property is also bordered by RMHP, Residential Mobile Home Park, to the south. This variance request is for a proposed 3-lot subdivision of an existing lot of record there on Wyoming. Petitioner submitted a survey depicting the existing lot to be divided into 3 new lots. The survey depicts an existing house and an existing shed to be removed. The RS10 district requires a minimum lot width of 50 feet at the right-of-way and a minimum lot width of 75 feet at the building setback line. All 3 proposed lots meet the required 10,000 square foot minimum lot area requirements of the district and the required 50 feet lot width at right-of-way. Lot 1 shows a lot width of 71.46 feet, Lot 2 71.54, and Lot 3 71.46. All 3 proposed lots require a variance to the minimum lot width at the setback line of approximately 4 feet. Planning Division notes that an increase in density along Womack Avenue would potentially cause for improvements to the street. The petitioner has noted that he would be willing to dedicate right-of-way for a partial hammerhead turnaround at the terminus of Womack Avenue. The increase in density would also require sidewalk installation for the proposed new development. The Planning Division discussed this with our Public Works Department regarding hydric soils within the proposed development. Public Works would require a hydraulic determination before any development can begin on the subject property. The petitioner has been made aware of this issue and should coordinate with Public Works about potential redevelopment of the property. And there's a zoomed-in view of this proposed subdivision. Those lots are just shy of the 75 feet lot width at the setback line requirement. Here is an aerial view. You can see that's looking back to the east. Shadows are making it pretty tough to see there. So this variance is to reduce that minimum lot width. Our recommendation is approval of the variance request to reduce the minimum lot widths of building setback line from 75 feet to 71 feet for a total variance of 4 feet as depicted on the submitted plat. And obviously this will be subject to additional review by Public Works for any hydric soils issues or any necessary street improvements for a proposed terminus.
So they will have to meet all the things.
Well, it's an increase in density, and it's it's already a difficult issue for solid waste pickup. I think the trash trucks are having to, back down the street or do it on one side, so they'll evaluate that and see if it's, whether they can service it at the current or whether we would need improvements to provide services.
Well, go along that line, neighborhoods I'm associated with, they still have to back down into like a cul-de-sac area. So I mean, it's not an uncommon practice from what I've seen.
No, it's not ideal either.
No, I know. Okay. Anybody else have a question for Mr. Wolf?
You need your public hearing on this as well.
Is there, what,
You just need to ask for hold your public hearing on this as well.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
I was just making sure.
Okay.
Anybody else have any question on the rules? All right. Anyone else in the audience like to address this issue?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
As a adjacent, well, I own a property over the street, and maybe this is the public works part of it, but where's the water go? Because this area, the house across the street from this has had water all the way around it multiple times in the past several years when it rains hard.
So our Public Works Department is aware of that. I mean, there's gonna have to be some review. This is a very flat area. My understanding is difficult for the water to find a way out. They have looked at it. There may be some necessary, there may be some improvements required, right? We'll just have to talk to our Public Works folks and see what our recommendation would be. This does not approve the plat. This approves the variance to allow that lot width.
I just have a concern just when I looked at it, so.
It is flat. I'm aware of that, and that's our Public Works Department. You don't typically see these things these comments in a variance recommendation to a lot width, but in this instance, we felt like it was necessary to put it in there because they will have to satisfy Public Works on that issue. And we do understand that's an issue. I know the neighbor adjacent to the east is, you know, they've had problems with.
And I'm not against it, I'm for it, I mean, it's gonna look a lot better.
Yeah, and that-
The width is not bad, it's just, I've had water in my crawl space at the corner of Jerry Woodson and Walnut before.
I've seen there's some culverts that are stopped up there right now that would help. It all goes through the ditch in between what the church owns and where it borders me. And it looks like it's clogged up down there. It really looks like some unclogging would help a lot, to be honest with you. There are some culverts for sure, right around, I think, the driveway, and at the end of the street, there's a culvert that goes under the street, and I noticed it is clogged, so some of those things would help it. We're willing to do, you know, whatever is required for public works.
You know, some drainage issues are public issues, right, and some are private issues, and then the private issues are difficult for us to get, you know, addressed sometimes, but it would be Public Works. They would review this, knowing it's a sensitive area, they would be reviewing this very closely.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience like to, speak to this issue?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance for the setback.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Does that need to say the lot widths as well?
Yes, the lot widths and setback, it's just as recommended.
And meeting on.
Yes, and this is the first step, this does not approve a plat, and we'll make sure that's in the minutes, you guys can review that the next month.
Thank you. Anybody? Any other questions?
Motion to adjourn?